Okay, it's day 157, part one. And if you didn't see the last three episodes yesterday, boy, a lot happened after 6 o'clock. I made several videos just sort of dissecting the SES to really understand what happened. And again, I always go to documents that and official acts of Congress and so forth to really explain what happened. But the way I see it is the senior executive service never really was that. Maybe it started out as executive service, but it was really a senior intelligence service from the beginning when George Bush kind of pushed it through. It was sort of to take over and have the intelligence services or deep state or shadow government, whatever you want to call it. I know that some people make a distinction and say Dow and DuPont, maybe the shadow government and the deep state are their hands and feet or levers in the government. But you get the idea is that the government is not beholden to the people or the president as the Constitution would say. It's beholden to these kind of deep state owners, this kind of power elite. I've been talking about the power elite for quite some time. I think since the first day of the series. So that's really what it is, and there's three key areas of authorization that happened inside this senior executive service. This FBI DEA senior executive service, then this DI DES that happened, and then this SNIS, and this really was the top. In the Nazi days, they would call this the high command. This is the top level of security, I believe, like the Majestic 12 level type of security, where it's a very few insiders. This is the Christopher Wray, the Mueller, McCabe, Comey, Rosenstein, Priestap, Weissman, that sort of thing. This is the and the Orr, Bruce Orr, and so forth. And this is mainly around drug trafficking. Now, what they're going to say is this goes back to Mina Airport. This is for national security. We needed to run these drugs in order for these smaller nations to get weapons, in order for us to maintain a balance of power. There's all sorts of rationalizations, of why the drug trade in Pakistan was so important to take down the Soviet Union, why it's so important for drug trade pretty much all over the world in terms of worldwide security and balance of power. But I go back to Deep Uranium telling me at the listening station, at the Navy listening station at Lake Pontchartrain, Pontchartrain, I guess it's pronounced. There are certain things that would hit the radar that they would say, sailor, that's none of your business. There's certain planes that were going. In the beginning, in the early 80s, it was the small Barry Seal type Cessna planes, but quite quickly it transitioned into the heavy lift type C-130s and now the Hercules type. I can't remember if that's a C-147 going to Stratcom in Omaha, Nebraska. So very quickly this operation cycled up, and this hitting this level here was really institutionalizing um, this kind of secret trade um, that you needed to be read into this program. And what came along with this was a program to destroy anyone who would reveal this program. This program carried with it tremendous rewards in terms of the drug business. Mina Airport by itself was a $100 million a month operation. This transitioned more into $1 billion a month operation.
Okay, this is day 156.
The and this is again American intelligence media said some very nice things about me toward the end of the day. John Barnwell, as well as Doug Gabriel. So I appreciate that. But then when it really expanded was this sort of 1996, where Hillary's sort of saying, we might not win this thing, this election in 96. I can't even remember who the candidate was. I'm thinking it was Bob Dole. Uh, but just in case, let's go ahead and authorize this thing just in case we're out of power. That way we'll have a second level of cadre. This is the Awan brothers level, where we're going to bring in a set of, this is almost like, I think of like bringing in G4S, sort of like almost the British bringing in the Hessians. This is a second grade of mercenaries basically being brought in from
Six, and this is part 11.
excuse me, primarily to build out this service just in case we lose. Okay, but they won, and then the Defense Authorization Act kind of put it through, and then finally they kind of ran into where they'd filled out all of these DoD positions. Remember, the funding here is coming from the DoD, and I'll prove that in just one second, where we need to build out and use all these spots and infiltrate across 17 different agencies, not just three or four. This one was building out FBI, DEA to jump here to go to NGA, the National Geospatial, NRO, National Reconnaissance, CIA, DIA, especially DIA, creating DIA. This one really here was establishing it across 17 different ones, and primarily increasing surveillance all along the way, and then increasing the business, increasing the volume of the business. And this maps directly with the deaths, opioid deaths, and it maps directly with the increasing level of purity also of the opium and opioid products. So here's just a mega upload that somebody gave me a link to, but I think it's very instructive. It's a memo from 2005. It was top secret at one point. I'm assuming it is now declassified that I'm looking at it. If it is top secret still, I just want to say that I am reading this with the understanding it's not classified. I was sent the link, so I wasn't the one who did the compromise here. And it says here, changes to the senior executive service and removing the levels in the defense information, the DI there, and then you slightly pause, SES. And it's talking about someone at the NSA reporting directly to Michael Hayden. Okay, so this is a memo to the people of NSA saying, hey, for our SES inside NSA, we're going to make some changes. And so what it basically goes through, it says NSA originally, and this is again 2005, had talked about a pool of candidates from this GS-15. Okay, but then Director Hayden, Michael Hayden, became convinced in 2001 that NSA was understaffed. So that's when they started hiring the people from other agencies and just kind of helicoptering people in without having come up through the ranks at NSA. And I think this is so important that you come up through the ranks in order to understand what's actually not only technical competence and communications competence with your other people that you work with, but also understanding how change can be affected, and also just a matter of loyalties. If you bring in somebody from another country that's unvetted, that's very different than working side by side with somebody through crisis after crisis over 20 years. And now you're going to go into the situation room with that person and start giving away national secrets. It's a much different situation, especially at the NSA. I can't say how important this is. Again, I've never worked there. I know family members who have. Again, my experience here is third hand. But this is the memo talking about, hey, we used all of our slots. We went to the max number. We went to the maximum number. And then when that level was reached in October 2014, we couldn't authorize any more appointments here. Okay, so now the director has the intention of working with the DoD to raise the level of senior executives to be named. This is the continual infiltration. I think that's the important thing that I want to stress, is as the business became bigger, just like if you had more McDonald's in the early growth days of McDonald's, it started in California, then it became a West Coast phenomenon, then it became a nationalized phenomenon. You would add more people, you'd add more layers of management. And that's exactly what happened with the drug business. And again, I go back to Deep Uranium and Lake Pontchartrain saying there are certain things on the radar that are dark. And the other thing, just going through all these documents, and there's hundreds of documents that I received in this mega upload of all these people. This is this NASA guy giving out SES kind of certificates here. And I will just say one thing, and I won't talk too much to it, but this, and again, if I'm looking at something that's classified, I don't know that I am. But there's a lot of documents here to go through. Now, I'm not going to just post them willy-nilly. If someone has any insight of whether these are still classified, I would appreciate it. But you get what I'm saying is that it started when those organization first was announced. They don't say, "Hey, we're going to start an SS. We're all going to get black outfits just like Hitler had." It starts out with all good intentions, with good things, and then gradually it starts with this kind of Masonic rings that here's the highest level of secure access program. And then you divide and break things up, by department, so nobody knows the whole true story down here at the mercenary level. And then it's broken up again as it gets down to the 17 different units at the bottom of the pyramid. So the guy doing the geospatial interpretation at NGA doesn't know anything about the drug activity. All they know is those are blips that have been whited out by somebody here at this level. Somebody has gone through the feed and just basically blank those out so that those are not operated on. Those aren't shot out of the sky, basically. And this goes back to what Deep Uranium told me a long time ago, which is certain objects in the sky, as well as objects at sea, I would guess, are no questions asked.